Uh, so something happened in a room you were never invited into. And I do not mean that in the ordinary sense of being excluded or overlooked. I mean it in the most specific, most significant, most genuinely remarkable sense. Your name, the specific sound and weight and reputation of who you are and what you carry, traveled on its own, without your help, without your networking or your strategy or any deliberate effort on your part to place yourself in a particular orbit. It simply arrived in spaces that most people spend entire careers trying to access, in conversations between people who are extraordinarily selective about whose names they allow into their discussions, in rooms where the standard for what is worth talking about is so high that most people never make the cut, and your name made it into those rooms. Not through the door, through the conversation, which is the only way that actually matters. Stay with me, Virgo, because what came through for you today is the kind of reading that I genuinely did not expect when I sat down to open this energy, and the unexpectedness of it is itself part of the message. Let me begin by describing what I felt when this landed, because the quality of what came through today has a texture that I want to share before we go any deeper. There is a specific kind of energy that belongs to genuine recognition, not the surface level social media, everyone is famous for 15 minutes kind of recognition. The deeper kind, the kind that happens in private, in closed rooms, among people who have seen enough of the world and enough of what passes for exceptional to know the difference between something that simply looks impressive and something that actually is. That energy is what I felt when I tuned into your vibration today. The specific warmth of genuine recognition of people who do not give their attention cheaply, having given it to you. Of your name being spoken in spaces where names are spoken carefully and with full awareness of what the speaking of them means. And alongside that recognition, something else, something that surprised me even more. Conversation, active, engaged, enthusiastic conversation about you, not the passing mention of someone being acknowledged and then moved past. The sustained, curious, this is interesting, tell me more, quality of conversation that happens when a group of people collectively recognize that they have encountered something worth their full and sustained attention. They are talking about you, Virgo, at a level you have not been aware of, in spaces you have not had direct access to, and what they are saying is extraordinary. I want to speak to who these people are, because understanding the nature of the rooms your name has entered is part of what makes this reading so significant. These are not ordinary people in the sense of ordinary social circles. I want to be careful about how I describe this because the concept of elite means different things in different contexts, and I do not want to leave this vague when the energy is being specific. What I am feeling is a group of people who are distinguished not primarily by wealth or social status, though those things may be present. What distinguishes them is discernment, a highly developed, extensively tested, deeply reliable capacity for recognizing quality when they encounter it. People who have been around enough to know what real is and what is simply well packaged, who have developed through experience and exposure a kind of refined sensitivity to the genuine thing that makes the imitation immediately visible for what it is. These people encountered something that pointed them toward you, and their discernment fired immediately because what they encountered, whatever form the initial point of contact with your name or your work or your reputation took, had the signature of real, of genuine, of something that has not been constructed for an audience, but that simply exists as what it is because it cannot be anything else. And real, to people who have developed the capacity to recognize it, is the rarest and most valuable thing in any room. Spirit is showing me something very specific about how your name entered these spaces, and I want to slow down and receive this carefully. It was not through a single person. That is the first thing I am being shown. This was not one advocate, one champion, one person who encountered you and decided to bring your name into their circles. It arrived through multiple channels, which tells me something very significant about the nature of what has been building. When multiple independent channels lead to the same name, when people who do not know each other and who encountered you in different contexts all arrive at the same conclusion and bring that conclusion into the same circles, it creates something undeniable, a convergence of independent recognitions that cannot be explained by coincidence or by the enthusiasm of a single advocate. It is simply the weight of evidence, the accumulation of multiple people encountering you through different doors, arriving at the same understanding that this is someone worth knowing about, worth discussing, worth bringing into the rooms where important conversations happen. Your name arrived in these rooms because the evidence for your significance is too robust to contain in the spaces where it originally existed. It overflowed naturally without being pushed. I want to speak to what specifically has been generating this recognition because I think it is important for you to understand what about you has been doing this work in spaces you cannot see. It is not one thing. That is the first thing to understand. The kind of recognition I am describing is never generated by a single impressive quality. It is generated by a combination, a specific, unusual, difficult to find combination of things that, when encountered together in one person, creates a response in discerning people that a single impressive quality simply cannot. The first element is the quality of your mind. The way you think, the way you approach problems and questions and situations has a sophistication to it that registers immediately to people who are themselves operating at a high level of sophistication. Not sophistication in the performance sense, in the genuine, this is how this person actually processes the world sense. The specific clarity and depth and precision of your thinking is visible in everything you produce and everything you say and every interaction you have with the world around you. And people who have that same quality in themselves recognize it instantly in others. The second element is your integrity, the specific, consistent, never for an audience quality of your commitment to doing things the right way, which in the circles where your name has been traveling is not as common as one might hope. These are spaces where many people have learned to perform integrity while operating from something considerably less than it. And the genuine article, the actual lived commitment to standards that do not shift based on who is watching, is detectable and remarkable and worth talking about. The third element is the combination. The fact that the quality of mind and the integrity exist in the same person simultaneously, which should not be as rare as it is, but which is, in practice, rare enough that when people encounter it, they respond with the specific energy of someone who has found something they were beginning to doubt existed. Does this feel like it is connecting to something you have been sensing, Virgo? Have there been signs, subtle ones, that something has been shifting in how you are perceived in certain circles? New connections arriving from unexpected directions? Opportunities that seem to have originated from a source you cannot fully identify. Let me know in the comments. I want to know what you have been noticing. Let me speak now to what this recognition is going to mean in practical terms for your life, because I do not want this reading to simply be emotionally affirming without also having real-world implications that you can watch for and respond to. There are conversations happening in rooms you have not been in that are going to produce outcomes in your actual life, connections being considered, introductions being discussed, opportunities being weighed that have your name attached to them, people deciding whether and how to bring you closer into their world in ways that would create access that you do not currently have. These decisions are being made without your direct participation, because this is how it works in the specific circles your name has entered. Things are discussed and considered and decided among the inner circle before they are brought to the person being discussed. The reaching out, the invitation, the opening of a door comes after the conversation, not during it, which means the conversation is happening now, and what comes to you when it comes will be the result of decisions that have already been made in rooms you were not part of. What arrives is going to feel unexpected, possibly from a direction you were not monitoring, possibly in a form that does not immediately announce its full significance. A connection that seems casual on the surface, but that has a weight and a potential behind it that reveals itself gradually. An invitation that seems modest in its initial presentation, but that is actually a doorway into something considerably larger than it appears. Pay attention to what arrives from unexpected directions in the coming period. The unexpected arrival is often where the most significant things come from, when your name has been traveling in spaces like these. Inhale with me, Virgo. I want to speak to something about how you have been operating that I feel is directly connected to why this has happened. Because the recognition you are receiving in these spaces did not arrive randomly. It was generated by specific choices and specific behaviors that you have been practicing, most of them without any awareness that they were building towards something like this. You have been doing your work at a standard that does not vary based on audience. That is the key. Most people adjust their standard based on who is watching. They perform at their highest level when the performance has a visible audience, and they relax that standard when the audience is absent or when they believe the context does not warrant their full effort. You do not do this. Or if you have moments of it, they are exceptions rather than the pattern. The pattern is consistent effort, consistent standard, consistent commitment to the quality of what you do, regardless of whether anyone is watching or whether the context seems to merit it. This consistency is what creates the body of evidence that has been traveling before you into these rooms. Not a single impressive moment. A pattern of impressiveness that holds across contexts and audiences and circumstances. And patterns to discerning people are what actually matter. Anyone can have a single impressive moment. Consistent excellence across time and context is something else entirely. That is what you have been building, without knowing it was being observed, without knowing it was accumulating into something that would eventually arrive in spaces you have not been. Let me speak to something that came through very specifically about the quality of the conversations that are happening about you, because I feel it clearly and I think it is going to matter to you to understand what is being said. Your name in these rooms is not being spoken as the name of someone who is simply competent or impressive in a conventional sense. It is being spoken with a quality of interest that goes beyond professional acknowledgement. There is a curiosity about you that extends beyond what you have produced or what you are capable of, a curiosity about you as a person, about the interior of you, about what drives the specific quality of commitment and vision and integrity that has made your name worth bringing into the conversation. People want to know you, not just what you do or what you can offer or what your credentials are. You, the specific person behind everything they have encountered that pointed them toward your name. They sense that the person is even more interesting than what the person has produced. And they are right. This is actually unusual. In the circles where your name has been traveling, people are often discussed in terms of what they can produce or provide. The curiosity about the person themselves, the genuine interest in who someone actually is, rather than simply what they are capable of, is rarer than you might think. That this is the quality of the conversation about you tells you something important. These people are not simply assessing your usefulness to them, they are genuinely intrigued by who you are. I also want to speak to something about timing because I feel it is part of what Spirit wants to convey in this reading. The recognition that has been building in these spaces has a momentum now that did not exist 6 months ago or a year ago. Something has shifted in how prominently your name figures in certain conversations. Something that has to do with a specific development in your work or your life or your public presence that brought you to the attention of the initial person or people who then carried your name into wider circles. That initial moment of attention, whatever it was, has had a ripple effect that has been widening. And the current moment is the point where that widening ripple is reaching the spaces where the most significant conversations happen, where the people who actually have the capacity to create opportunities for you exist. This is the peak of the wave, not the end of the recognition, the beginning of its most significant expression in your actual daily life. What has been building in invisible spaces is about to start becoming visible in the form of connections arriving, in the form of invitations appearing, in the form of people presenting themselves in your life who come from directions you did not expect, carrying opportunities or relationships that have the potential to change the landscape of what is available to you. As I bring this reading toward its close, I want to leave you with the thing that I feel matters most from everything that came through today. You have been doing your work in a way that has been speaking for itself, in spaces you were not in, among people you have not yet met, through channels you were not tracking. Your work, your integrity, the specific combination of qualities that makes you who you are, has been traveling before you and arriving in rooms that your physical presence has not yet reached. This is what it means to have a reputation that precedes you, not in the shallow brand management sense of carefully cultivating a public image, in the deeper, more durable sense of who you actually are and what you actually do, being so consistently excellent that it creates a presence in places you have never been. That presence has arrived in extraordinary rooms, Virgo, and the people in those rooms are responding to it with the specific, discerning, genuinely impressed quality of people who do not impress easily. You are famous in spaces you did not know were watching. You have been famous there for longer than you realize. And what is about to arrive in your life is the physical world expression of a recognition that has already been established in the spaces that matter. Receive what comes with the quiet confidence of someone who is not surprised at the deepest level to be recognized for what they have always actually been. Because at the deepest level, you should not be surprised. This was always where you were headed. If this reading resonated with you today, please share it with a Virgo who needs to feel this energy, and leave me a comment below. Tell me how this landed. Tell me if you have been feeling something shifting in the quality of opportunities or connections arriving in your life. Tell me what it feels like to hear that your name has been in rooms you did not know were open to you. I read every single word you share. Every story matters to me deeply, and I carry your energy with genuine care long after this video ends. Until next time, Virgo, your name arrived in the room before you did, and the room was ready for it. Now it is ready for you.